I work with Black social workers, so of course, Black Relations 100s, abridged. This is an abridged version of a forthcoming piece I'm working on about my experiences working in a predominantly Black institution, or PBI, and on a team of all Black mental health professionals. In the full piece, I will use Maria Lugones' piece, Playfulness, World Traveling, and Loving Perception, for theoretical scaffolding as I reflect on my recent experiences as well as a formative relationship with a young Black boy in my childhood. In this piece, I simply want to share the raw 100s I wrote as a way of tracking my cognitive and emotional reactions to my surroundings in a PBI. I first encountered the practice of 100s writing in my master's program at DePaul University. In our thesis writing seminar for Women's and Gender Studies, our professor encouraged the practice in order to get us into the habit of writing on a regular basis, a habit which undoubtedly would have helped all of us complete the thesis writing with more ease. That is, it would have helped if any of us actually used the method. I encountered the 100s again in Dr. Kim Tallbear's Substack, Unsettle. In her post Prairie Relations 100s, Tallbear illustrates beautifully how formative the prairies have been in her sense of self, home, and love. She also provides a brief explanation of the origins of the practice by way of her connection to Cersei Sturm, a participant of one of the first 100s writing groups. The 100s writing practice began in 2009 with Emily Bernard at the University of Vermont. Writers are free to use any word, phrase, or idea that inspires them and are unrestricted in the form as well. Groups rotate their roster, with each writer contributing a 100 in their turn. When our team was challenged to make a promotional video about the services we provide in the Wellness Center, my supervisor suggested we jump on the TikTok trend where creators complete the phrase, "I work with Black women, so of course," tweaking the prompt slightly to "I work with Black social workers, so of course." Since I was/am the only person on the team who was/is not Black, my supervisor playfully suggested I go last, ending the video with a witty remark about my singularity on the team. I confess feeling a bit panicked by this suggestion, and to this day am unsure what I would have said. In one of the 100s below, you'll hear a bit about my reaction to this proposal. While the video never came to fruition, I immediately jumped on the opportunity to complete the phrase using the 100s practice. While I knew that every previous attempt at journaling was a profound failure, I felt intrigued by the challenge to complete the phrase and compelled to reflect critically on my experiences working with the Black women on my team, the other Black individuals on campus, and with a community largely defined by Blackness. Fast forward a few months later, and I have now a small set of reflections in the 100s format. As I stated above, the purpose of this piece is simply to share the raw reflections in the order they were written, and I'll provide theoretical framing and discuss the significance for social work practice in a forthcoming piece. For now, I hope you enjoy these Black Relations 100s. January 26th, 2024. Relationality. To speak of Blackness is to inherently speak of myself. Not because I am myself Black, but because I have a relationship to Blackness, to Black people, and to Black communities, as we all do, whether we recognize it or not. So, what is that relationship then? In, out, oscillating, neither, both? What are the boundaries of Blackness? That is perhaps the first question that comes to me as I ponder the prompt. I work with Black social workers, so of course I always have difference and relationality on my mind. So, of course, I am unsettled. And I'm pausing here for a quick editorial note before I move on to the next 100. My supervisor, when she read this first reflection, had a fairly strong reaction to the word unsettled. As I defined in a previous piece, unsettled can mean a number of different things, usually with a bad connotation or a negative connotation. In this context, I use unsettled in the way that it's often used in settler colonial or Native American and Indigenous studies, and that is that this complacency that one has in settler colonialism is disrupted. Okay, back to the 100s. February 9th, 2024. Black Love. I work with Black social workers, so of course I included Black Love in our Week of Love dress code for the week of Valentine's Day. Wear red, black, or green. What is Black love? Is it any time Black individuals express love, regardless of its manifestation? Is it showing love for Black people, regardless of who's expressing it? Is it FUBU, for us, by us? Us, in this case, being Black peoples, and thus beyond the purview of my ponderings or what I can say it is or is not. Will I adorn myself in red, black, and green? February 9th, 2024. Vexatious. I work with Black social workers, so of course I was challenged to draft a witty remark to complete this phrase. I am not witty. I'm more vexatious in my attempts to be funny, like trying to fit a square in a circle. I can have my moments, and they're fraught with questions of right fit. I do wonder, though, whether or not vexatiousness is an inherent characteristic trait, or a character flaw, perhaps, or is it the product of clumsy world traveling? I am vexatious, or I work with Black social workers, so I feel vexatious. My vexatiousness is so vexatious. February 18th, 2024. Tread carefully. I work with Black social workers, so of course I'm in a predominantly Black institution in a historically Black and impoverished community. Oh, that's not the best area, was the first response when relaying that I had applied. That I had no frame of reference of my own aside, this initial response was a cue to me that it may be the best place to apply. Consider, oh, that area doesn't have the resources they need to thrive. All the more reason to apply. To tread carefully, though, in my work and values, perhaps more so than the street. February 24th, 2024. Reverence. I work with Black social workers, so of course there were questions when I adorned my bookshelf with a Mexica calendar and a molcajete. Pestle and mortar is the best description without diving into the historical and cultural significance of corn to indigenous peoples and their descendants throughout the Americas. Now is not the time to understand that corn is our sacred mother. The day to celebrate the emergence of corn is the day before my birthday, or that I've never eaten native corn. From the nature of its display, you should intuit its reverence. Maybe you will feel it too. March 3rd, 2024. Space we share. Season with salt. Remove cobs cascading from hooked protrusions and strip the kernels. Crush, mash, mix, stir with a careful but firm, loving hand. The essence of our collective life lies herein. Molcajete is like the womb which nurtures sacred life and from which, quote unquote, my peoples emerge. Thus, it is not unlike the space which we share. From hooks, I acquire much of what's necessary. I work with Black social workers, so I, quote, must learn to mix various ingredients: care, affection, recognition, respect, commitment, and trust, as well as honest and open communication. unquote. And pausing quickly here for another editorial note. This piece, the quote at the end of this piece was a quote from bell hooks, which is why I say from hooks I acquire much of what's necessary. March 3rd, 2024. Selling out, buying in. This week, I was asked what relevance my thesis has on my work at a PBI. I think this is a good question. If we accept the charge of decolonization, then we must unsettle and explore the potential for what is sometimes referred to as new indigenisms for Black peoples. This requires a disinvestment in the often disparaging attitudes towards queerness and a greater sense of community on campus and beyond. I work with Black social workers, so I start clubs and join committees, support initiatives, teach. I sell out, buy in, reflect, critique, grow. Indeed, we must do so together. March 29th, 2024. Committee meeting. Accustomed to being the only person of color, the only person socialized as a man, or only person striving towards queerness in a room, I usually do not shy away from dissent. This is a well-melanated room, though, wherein I am the only person who strives towards queerness and is not Black. Everyone here has been socialized into white settler masculinity. I feel the familiar urge to disrupt the sometimes well-disguised assumptions in the room percolating to the surface. I inhale sharply to speak, but hesitate, and the meeting is over. August 25th, 2024. Compartmentalization. Compartmentalization has always come naturally to me. On my commute home, the worries of the workday go flying out my car window onto the expressway as I let them go before returning home. Walking through the doorway of home, I walk into a new cognitive world. But Chicago is a notoriously segregated city, and I also walk into a new social world. Perhaps the two are not unrelated. As I compartmentalize my worries, do I too let go of my loyalties, commitments, and obligations? I certainly don't let go of my privilege to compartmentalize. August 25th, 2024. The only one. I am noticing once again that I am the only non-Black person in the room. And it occurs to me that this has likely gone unnoticed many times since my last 100-word check-in. As I said in that 100, I am accustomed to being the only one in the room. So perhaps my mind has simply adapted to a new context where this continues to be true, albeit in a different capacity. Yet I find that forgetting one's situatedness in a set of white supremacist and heteropatriarchal relations, even for a moment, can lead to much unintentional harm. October 12th, 2024. Surprise. I work with Black social workers, so of course I am the only one working on Black Girl Day off. When the question of equity is posed with regard to the subsequent Indigenous Peoples Day, I clarify, I am not an Indigenous person. Surprise befalls the room. What? I thought you were Indigenous and Latinx. Isn't part of being Latine being Indigenous? Verbose, as I can sometimes be, I distinguish Indigenous Chicanx ancestry from being Native in a set of settler colonial relations. Having shattered the perception, I exclaim, "Surprise!" and we laugh together. Uh, that is it for my Black Relations 100s. Thank you again for listening and or reading.